When filling in an online form, there's nothing more annoying than making a mistake and discovering that you have to fill in every field again. As a courtesy to your site's visitors, it's a good idea to preserve user input when an error is detected. Since the content of each field is in the post array, it's easy to redisplay, but you need to be careful when injecting unknown values into your HTML. The script in MailProcess.php takes each element in the post array and reassigns it to a new variable based on the key name. So the content of the name field is assigned to a variable called name, the content of the email field is assigned to a variable called email, and so on. Right, let's add some conditional logic to redisplay the value inside the form field. Just add a little bit of extra space before the closing angle bracket of this input element and add a PHP code block. And in there, if errors or missing, we want to display the value attribute and the value that it should contain. Now you might be wondering why I haven't used a double quoted string here, but there is method to my madness. First, let's save the page and test it in a browser. Let's imagine that Elvis is still alive and he wants to get in touch. I won't bother with the other fields, let's just submit it, and you can see that it's been truncated. You need to look at the source code to see why. And what has happened is that the browser has matched this double quote here with this one here and says that is the value of the value attribute, and it's ignored the rest. The solution is to use a PHP function called HTML entities, which does, well, what the name says really. It turns certain characters into their equivalent HTML entity. So if we save that and then reload the page, and if we try Elvis the King Presley again, it's now displayed correctly. And just quickly look at the source code. What has happened is that the double quotes have been replaced by their HTML entities. Now that's good, but let's just see what happens if Jose Feliciano were to visit the website. Submit that. Oh dear, the eacute has been garbled, and the reason for that is that HTML entities is based on the old Western European encoding, and what we need to do is we need to convert this to UTF-8. So let's go back in here, and we need to add two more arguments, so a comma and then all in capitals ENT underscore compat, then another comma and a string which will be UTF-8, and if we save that and then test the page again, let's just reload it and we'll try Jose Feliciano again. Submit, and it is now displayed correctly. So we need to add the same PHP block to the email field. So we'll copy that and then just add it in here. And we need to change that variable there to email. It needs to be slightly different for the text area. So if we go in between the text area opening and closing tags, then add a PHP block. You need to make sure that the PHP block begins and ends right up against the opening and closing tags. Otherwise you'll get blank space within your text area that you don't want. And in this case it will be if errors or missing, and then simply echo, and then we need to just copy this rather long bit of code here. And instead of email, of course, it will be comments. Just add a semicolon at the end of that line and a closing curly brace. So let's save the page and test it again in the browser. So Jose Feliciano and then J at and we'll forget the comments because they're required. And I've submitted it, and both Jose Feliciano and the email have been preserved. And just to prove that I'm not cheating, let's take that value out of name and put a little comment in here and then submit it again. You can see that hi there has been preserved, so has the email, and we now have the error message for name. So that's how you preserve user input when a form is submitted with errors. Before redisplaying values passed through the post array, you need to pass them to the HTML entities function. When used with only one argument, the function defaults to Western European encoding and corrupts accented characters. By adding entcompat as the second argument and a string containing UTF-8 as the third argument, HTML entities supports not only accented characters, but also Chinese, Japanese, and other scripts.